3 cold cases that are solved in 2026. Some crimes seem to disappear into history. Years pass, witnesses fade, and evidence grows cold. Families are left waiting, sometimes for decades, hoping one day someone will finally uncover the truth. But in recent years, technology, persistence, and modern forensic science have started to reopen these forgotten mysteries. Cases that once looked impossible to solve are suddenly revealing shocking answers. In 2026, investigators finally cracked several cold cases that had haunted communities for years. Some involved killers believed they had escaped justice forever. Others revealed secrets hidden for decades. Today, we're looking at 3 chilling cold cases that were finally solved in 2026, and the twists behind each one are truly unbelievable. Case 1. The Murder of Ashley Okland. A normal day that turned into a crime scene. On April 8, 2011, a young real estate agent named Ashley Okland was hosting an open house inside a quiet neighborhood in West Des Moines. She was just 27 years old and working inside a model home when something terrifying happened. Visitors were expected to stop by throughout the day, but instead, a violent crime occurred behind those doors. Later that afternoon, Ashley was found inside the home with gunshot wounds. She had been shot twice, and despite emergency efforts, she did not survive. What made the crime even more disturbing was its apparent randomness. There were no witnesses, no clear suspects, and no obvious motive. The investigation quickly became one of the most puzzling murders in the region. A mystery that lasted 15 years. Police worked tirelessly to solve the case. Investigators followed nearly 900 leads and interviewed hundreds of people, yet nothing pointed to a clear suspect. The case grew colder over the years. For Ashley's family, the pain of not knowing who committed the crime was almost unbearable. For more than a decade, the murder remained unsolved. But detectives never completely gave up on the case. Behind the scenes, investigators continued reviewing evidence and re-examining old files, hoping that someday a new clue might appear. The breakthrough in 2026. In 2026, investigators finally made a shocking arrest. Authorities charged a woman named Kristen Elizabeth Ramsey with Ashley's murder. Ramsey had worked for the same development company connected to the housing project where the crime occurred. The arrest stunned the community because the case had seemed impossible to solve after so many years. For Ashley's family, the news brought long-awaited relief. After 15 years of unanswered questions, the investigation finally produced a suspect. Justice after years of silence. While the court process is still unfolding, the arrest marked a major turning point in the case. It showed that even when a crime goes unsolved for years, investigators may still uncover the truth. The case of Ashley Okland became a powerful reminder that time does not always erase evidence, sometimes it simply waits for the right moment to reveal it. Case 2. The Lovers Lane Murders. A night that ended in horror. In August 1990, a young couple drove to a quiet area often known locally as Lovers Lane in Houston. The couple, Cheryl Henry and Andy Atkinson, had planned a normal evening together. But what happened that night turned into one of the city's most disturbing unsolved crimes. When the couple failed to return home, concern quickly grew. Soon, the horrifying truth was discovered. Cheryl had been brutally attacked and killed, while Andy had been tied to a tree and murdered in a violent manner. The crime shocked investigators because of its brutality and the lack of clear suspects. A case that went cold for decades. For years, detectives searched for the killer but struggled to find enough evidence to identify the person responsible. Witnesses were limited, and the crime scene provided few immediate leads. As time passed, the investigation slowly became a cold case. Families of the victims continued hoping for justice, but decades passed without answers. Many believed the killer had escaped forever. DNA finally reveals the truth. In 2026, investigators finally made a breakthrough using modern DNA evidence. Authorities identified a suspect named Floyd William Parrott. He was arrested after his DNA was linked to evidence from the crime scene. The arrest came more than 36 years after the murders. For investigators, the moment proved the power of modern forensic technology. Evidence collected decades earlier had finally pointed to a suspect. A case that refused to be forgotten. The arrest shocked many people who remembered the case from the early 1990s. It also brought hope to families of other cold case victims. Even after decades, the truth can still surface. For the victims' families, the arrest represented something they had waited for most of their lives: justice. Case 3. The 1983 Dorothy, Toby, Tate murder. A suspicious van on a highway. In November 1983, a caller reported a suspicious van parked along a highway near the famous landmark Hearst Castle in California. Inside that van, investigators discovered the body of a woman named Dorothy Toby Tate. She had been shot and killed, but detectives could not determine who was responsible. At the time, forensic technology was limited, and investigators struggled to find enough evidence to identify a suspect. The case soon went cold. A mystery that lasted over 4 decades. For more than 40 years, the murder remained unsolved. The files were eventually moved into the cold case archives, where thousands of other unsolved crimes sit waiting for new leads. But one detective refused to let the case remain forgotten. Years later, investigators reopened the investigation using modern forensic techniques. The power of DNA genealogy. In 2026, detectives used advanced genetic genealogy analysis to examine old evidence collected from the crime scene. This technology allows investigators to compare DNA with public genealogy databases and identify relatives of potential suspects. That breakthrough finally helped investigators identify the people responsible for the murder. The discovery solved a mystery that had remained unanswered for over 4 decades. For the victim's family, the development brought emotional closure after years of uncertainty. Why cold cases are being solved faster today. The DNA revolution. One of the biggest reasons cold cases are finally being solved is the rapid development of forensic science. Investigative genetic genealogy allows detectives to identify suspects even when the original DNA sample is decades old. Modern databases can connect evidence to distant relatives, giving investigators new leads they never had before. Technology that didn't exist before. Advanced data analysis, digital records, and improved forensic tools now allow investigators to re-examine evidence from old cases. Even small pieces of evidence, like a hair or a fingerprint, can suddenly become crucial clues. Detectives who refuse to give up. Another key factor is persistence. Many cold case detectives dedicate years of their careers to solving crimes that others have forgotten. Their determination often leads to breakthroughs that bring long-delayed justice. The emotional impact of solved cold cases. For the families of victims, solving a cold case can bring mixed emotions. On one hand, it offers relief and closure. On the other hand, it reopens painful memories of the original tragedy. Still, many families say knowing the truth is far better than living with unanswered questions. These 3 cases prove an important point. Time does not erase the truth. Even when decades pass, evidence can still speak. Investigators, scientists, and new technology are changing the future of criminal investigations. Crimes that once seemed impossible to solve are now being reopened, and many killers who believed they had escaped justice are finally being identified. Cold cases may go silent for years, but sometimes all it takes is one new piece of evidence to bring everything back to life. And in 2026, that's exactly what happened.